Hi everyone, welcome to today's session on the state of the platform, an update on everything that got added to CHILI GraFx, our creative automation platform for multi-channel output intents. You'll see all about it over the next 30 minutes. Very happy to be with Wart de Lange. Wart is our Chief Product Officer. Hey Wart.
Hi Kees, thanks for organizing this.
As always, my pleasure. We're going to go fast. We'll hit on a couple of central concepts that were important in the development of the platform, but mostly we will show you what got shipped over the last weeks. So let's get into it. To set the scene, we see two modes of adoption of CHILI GraFx by customers. First, you see graphic production at scale, where the goal is to automate the graphic production process to a very high level. And where possible, remove the designer from that process. And then on the right, you see brand enablement at scale. This is when we create composition models and smart templates, and we put them in the hands of non-designer end users. So people who go in to produce their own graphic assets and be on their way and have the impact. Why is that important? More and more data shows that design functions in brands and in agencies are under a lot of pressure of growing workload because there's pressure on personalization, localization, multi-channel production. That's why we focus on print, digital, and animated output to really remove some of that workload from these teams under pressure. When we talk about this, we talk about workflows and how work moves through teams and systems. And we came up with this slide to just talk about a common flow in CHILI GraFx, Graphic Studio. Bart, can you explain how we look at this?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as a designer, you probably already have designs. You're probably already used to using specific tools like Adobe InDesign, Photoshop, maybe Figma. And we have plugins that allow you to import those designs, those static designs, and convert it into the Graphic Studio format. Then once we are in Graphic Studio, we can elevate those static designs to become smart. Basically, we elevate that static design to become a composition model. We put business rules in there, so logic. We put brand guidelines in there so we can enforce our brand identity. We define things like animation, so it's not just static, it can be animated. We define multiple sizes and limits to those sizes. And so once everything is configured, we can then go to the next phase where we can output it in the specific formats that are required for the specific channels and regions.
Right.
Maybe also important that first phase is not really required. I mean, you don't have to start in InDesign or Photoshop or Illustrator or Figma. Graphic Studio is also a fully fledged design solution. So as a designer, I could also design from scratch straight into Graphic Studio. And if you're a designer, you will immediately recognize the UI of that because it's very similar to modern graphics design tools like, for example, Figma, Photoshop, etc.
Right. Okay. So you'll feel right at home.
Mm-hmm.
To make this work, to make work flow through different systems into Graphic Studio and from Graphic Studio to the various output channels, we invested in a connector framework over the last months. Can you talk a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. So you're typically already sitting on a large pile of data, so broad assets and product information, customer data, you name it. And you want to leverage that data in the graphics production process to produce personalized assets, to produce product-specific assets or region-specific assets. So you want to connect to those single sources of truth of data, so there's no duplication going on, less chances of errors. And from day one, we've always been API first, so people could build these integrations and get that data from these external systems. With our connector framework, we take it a step to the next step because we want to make it as out of the box as possible. So if a connector is already available to the system that you're using, it could be a product information management system, it could be a CDP, it could be a DAM, then you can use it out of the box. If it doesn't exist yet, you can build it because the connector framework is completely open source, and that means everyone can build these connectors and either use them yourself or you can give them back to the community and expose them to our user base.
Excellent. Once we take a closer look inside Graphic Studio, we differentiate three phases that users go through from basic conceptual ideas to execution in the market through different channels. And we talk about build, validate, and deploy as these core concepts. What do we mean on a high level with these three stages?
Well, the build step we already touched upon. That's always required. You're going to import designs into Graphics Studio. You're going to create a smart template. That means that you're going to set up the connections. You're going to embed the business logic. You're going to embed the brand guidelines. So basically, you're elevating a design into a composition model that you can always trust, either in the hands of a user or when we put data in there. Of course, before we do that, we want to validate it. We want to test it. And that's the beauty of a composition model, is that we can actually test it ahead of runtime and then still make corrections before we are going to actually use it in production, either by users or by connecting data to it in a headless manner.
Excellent. Okay. So without further ado, we'll have a look at the first stage, the build stage. We go over to Raf, and he's going to show how that works in Graphics Studio today. Raf, over to you.
Thanks, Keith. Hi, everyone. All right, so let me show you how to get set up. We've created a design in InDesign for a hotel brand. What we're going to do is import it into Graphics Studio thanks to our InDesign plugin. So just open the plugin, click Export, and it'll make sure everything on your design is compatible and export it as a zip file. Then simply go into Graphics Studio and import your zip, and voila, you can now open your design in Graphics Studio. Now let me show you how to turn this design into a multi-channel template at lightning speed. What we're going to do is go with Print, Social, and Display Ads. First, let's select a few layouts for flyers, posters, and print ads from the preset window. Let's start with print. Thanks to anchoring, auto-grow, and copy feeding, all content changes we do on the top level are automatically propagated to all variants. So if we change the text, image, or logo, we only have to make sure that those changes are done once. Now, I know what you're thinking. Well, why do we have a CTA button on print? Well, let's hide this one and replace it with a QR code. And thanks to our inheritance, that QR code will be added to all of our print layouts. Now, let's prep for a social ad campaign. We already have a square, so let's add a vertical and a landscape. Since we're running ads on Meta, we're going to move things around on our vertical to make sure it's all going to be visible by users. Now, we're on socials. So let's add a few animations. And let me tell you right away, you don't need experience with this. It's super user-friendly. You just need to click an object and select an animation. You can also play around with it if you'd like. You can make things go faster, slower, or appear at different times. Cherry on top, all of your animations will be added to your selected layouts. That being said, if you want to change your animations on a particular layout, you can totally do that. Now, let's look at display ads and select a few squares and rectangles from our presets. As you can see, everything's adjusted automatically. You can also choose a very different aspect ratio, show Graphics Studio how you want your objects to be displayed, add more presets, and everything will be done for you. So as you just saw, we imported an InDesign file into Graphics Studio and created all kinds of sizes across print, socials, and display, with both static and animated formats in a matter of minutes. All right, Keith, Wout, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Raf. Bart, that was a nice short expose of a lot of new technology in Graphics Studio. Raf took a basic design from InDesign into Graphics Studio, many preset layouts. But in order for this to work and to not require a lot of additional manual work from a designer, there's actually quite a bit that was going on there to make that work. Can you talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so indeed, what Ralph already showed is that we go from a static design into a multi-size design because of technology like anchoring. The moment we import, we actually add different sizes. You see that Graphics Studio already adapts automatically those designs. And so that's a great first step, but it's actually a lot more complex because in the real world, we're not dealing with different sizes. We're dealing with, first of all, different channels. We have static and animated. Ralph also showed that already. We have multi-region. That means things like currencies change, but also the position of these currencies, the way your numbers are formatted. We have specific business rules. We have different flavors that you want to inject into those templates. So to really make a dynamic template that responds to data or make a dynamic composition model, we need to rely on a couple more configurations, a couple more features. Things like auto-grow, copy fitting, output intents. And then, of course, that's also where Graphics Genie comes into play, Graphics Genie or AI Assistant. And that AI Assistant helps these template designers to turn that quite static design into something truly dynamic.
Okay. So we are now going to look at a second demo for today's webinar. This is where Raf is going to take where we left him and is going to apply these dynamic features with the use of Graphics Genie. Let's have a look. Raf?
Hi again, everyone. So we just showed you that any content changes are propagated to all channels and sizes. But obviously, we don't want to do this manually. So let me show you how to turn your template into a data-driven smart template. Here, we're working with a store display. So we've got shelf talkers, danglers, blades, show cards, violators, etc. We're working with a hypermarket chain that's got multiple locations throughout North America, the UK, and Europe. So we're going to use one template for all locations. First thing we want is to make sure that we can display the right currency in each location. So I created a list with different countries, and now I'm going to ask for some help from our AI assistant, Graphics Genie. And I'm going to let it know what it needs to do for us. And it's just going to do it for us. So let's open Graphics Genie and enter a simple prompt. In this case, depending on the region, adjust the currency for the discounted price and the regular price. Wait a couple of seconds, and we're done. I can now select a region, and the currency is adjusted automatically. We can also do the same with the valid through date. Go back to Graphics Genie, and this time let's go with adjust the date display format according to the region selected. Wait a few seconds, and voila. Select a region, and both the currency and the date will be displayed in the region's preferred format. We don't have to stop there though. We've also added all different types of deals up top, along with a color for each, so local managers can select the type of discount promo they want to run with. And last but not least, we use the CHILI GraFx connector framework to link up our product and their info, so that whenever we select a product, the description, price, and discounts are automatically adjusted. You can of course work with multiple formats and adjust the design for each. For larger print sizes, such as blades, violators, window, and ceiling hanging posters, we've added a cross-promotion element for the app at the bottom. On smaller sizes, like danglers and talkers, we've removed the product image. And we've also created animated layouts for digital display. That's it for now. Keith, back to you.
Okay, another significant demo by Raf. Thanks, Raf. Okay, we designed something in Adobe. We got it into Studio. We prepared for all these different scenarios and execution. Me as a marketer, this is where I push the button and say, go, go, go. Get to the market with it, right?
Yeah, but I think it's better to test it before you actually push it to production. And that's why we introduced the run mode in Studio. So the advantage is I can build my design, I can put my business logic in there, and then before I push it to production, I can validate, I can run it and see if everything goes right. So you're testing how it would respond in an end user scenario where you expose that template to a user, so I can interact with it in the same way as an end user would do. But at the same time, I can also validate if data is injected into it, how does that composition model respond, and is it doing everything as expected?
Right.
If you encounter an error, you can go back to build, you make the adjustments, you test it again. If everything is right, we can then push it to the next phase and we can start producing graphics at scale.
Very responsible. Better safe than sorry. Raf, let's have a look.
Okay, let's take a look at run mode. So like you just mentioned, we finished creating our template and now it's time to test it out. So we're going to go to run mode and check it out. Let's select a different product and see how the template behaves. Now it looks good, except our QR code is not updating when the product changes. So let's go back to design mode and change that. We're going to ask Graphics Genie to do it for us. So let's enter a simple prompt. Let's go with update the QR code link by using the following base URL and adding the product ID. Now that Genie has done the work for us, let's go back to run mode and check it out. Let's select the bag of coffee and our QR code has updated perfectly. Well, that's it. the template is ready to be shared across all of our stores.
Okay, now that everything is tested, we're ready to push the button. Two use cases. First is brand enablement. We're going to expose our users to this new template and allow them to produce their own assets for local execution. And the second one is headless graphics production at scale. So we're going to do a batch output of one of the print assets in this template. And yeah, Raf, back to you. Action.
Thanks, guys. All right, now let's look at a piece of direct mail to retarget guests after a trip to one of our resorts. As you can see, we've got a range of different elements on this template, including images, a headline, info about the offer, which as you'll see combines different elements, fine print, a deadline, and a QR code. Just like with other templates, we've created a design and set up variables to be able to change different elements. And we've also added actions so that different elements display or not, or interact with each other in a logical way. Once the template is tested and ready, we add it to a collection to make it available to end users. First, let me show you what this looks like in a self-serve environment. We've got our trifold brochure in the center, and we're able to edit different elements on the left-hand side. All of these changes will be reflected on the document instantly. Let's start up top. We can customize our headline and our lifestyle, depending on the type of guest or traveler we're sending this to. We can select a type of credit card. This will update its image, its name across the trifold, the traveler's next status, and its annual fees. Next, we can change the value of the gift card, bonus points, and minimum spending per 3-month period. Let's also update the ratio of points earned per dollar spent, and the combined amount of yearly spending on groceries, gas stations, and dining. We can also modify the number of Premier Night credits earned annually. Now, for demo purposes, we've left the QR code link open. And as you can see, you can simply enter a landing page URL and it updates instantly. Last but not least, we can adjust the application deadline to provide returning guests with a particular time frame to apply. Once we're happy with the mailer, we connect our data source to personalize the variables in this asset for our customers. And that's based on their loyalty program level, travel preferences, and purchasing behavior. CHILI GraFx is an API-first platform with out-of-the-box plugins and connectors. This means that you can run VDP jobs through API or in self-service mode. And that's by offering a data connector under our connector framework and allowing our end users to generate thousands or even millions of personalized assets. So this is how we drive brand enablement of end users and graphics production at scale in headless infrastructures with one platform, CHILI GraFx. Well, that's it for now. Ward, Keith, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Raf, for the extensive demos today. We've seen it all. Ward, in recap, please walk through the flow and what's the call to action for today's audience?
Well, what we've just seen is indeed we can import a design from the tools we are used to as designers, or start straight in Graphics Studio and create our designs there, elevate those designs into composition models, really make it dynamic, so responsive to data or to user input. And from there, we either go to brand enablement, we put those templates into the hands of users, or we go for complete headless production of graphics, production at scale.
Okay, are you ready to try what you saw today for yourself? Then please go ahead and request one of the new CHILI GraFx discovery environments. It's an environment with the content that you saw today and a bit more ready for you to play around with and see how they can work for your current graphic production process and teams. Submit a request form on our website or talk to your client success manager. They will be happy to help you out. Thank you for your attention. See you next time. Thanks, Bart.
Thanks, Kees.
Thanks for watching. Give us a shout and we'll get you access to your own CHILI GraFx discovery environment. Once you're in, you'll be able to play around with today's content, or even better, design your own smart templates and get a feel of what Graphics Studio can do for your business. Just scan this QR code and we'll set you up with your very own CHILI GraFx discovery environment.